thing is, until you can erase 3 Februaries, shut up.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
I was just cracking up during the intro there. My wonderful executive producer Cole Johnson cut that clip and used it for that short intro because y'all know my favorite quarterback of all time is Joe Montana. So he kept that clip in there. Why am I laughing? Because a lot of people either can't or don't. One of the subjects I talk about a lot is depression. And you can mix in anxiety with that. And a lot of things can lead to it, but a lot more things can lead you through it. Let's go to Pittsburgh, home of the Igloo and the Penguins, and Carolyn, Skowron. How are you, my dear? Good to have you.
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. When I saw and read your story about battling depression, and then your intro title, You Are Unbreakable, I said, I have to have this because there are so many days that I fight depression. And a lot of people have an event or events happen to them where they are forced to, and I hate saying this aloud, but it's true, suffer in silence.
Yep.
So when I read your bio, for many years you struggled with depression and anxiety. What brought it on? What was one of the first major things you had to deal with to fight it?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think it all started in 3rd grade. I was bullied from a very young age. So I kind of had this perception of that I wasn't really wanted in the crowd or like that I was different. So I struggled immensely with that as a kid. But as I got older, it kind of just kept building and building. And that's when I really developed depression, anxiety, and as much as I hate to say it, I self-harm.
You know, a lot of people don't realize when you get bullied at a young age, it can stick with you.
For sure. Definitely.
It can stick with you. I mean, it sure as hell stuck with me. It sure as hell stuck with me until finally, what was the one day where you finally said, you know what, enough?
I will say it was in March of 2020. I was recovering after a life-threatening car accident, and this idea just came to me of using my voice and trying to have the gratitude that I did for life at this point because it was a very traumatic experience, but being able to get through it and have the support system that I did, I really just felt like it was my time to say, hey, I get it. I've been there. And now it's time to use your voice because life is so precious. And I grabbed my seatbelt seconds before I went through that windshield. So I always say that it's my second chance at life.
Good. I too have been given a second chance after battling cancer and beating it.
Wow. I'm so sorry.
The only way y'all can be sorry, and I appreciate the sentiment, is if I'm in a box. I'm not in a box. I'm in a chair and I'm using my voice as well. Because I too want to help spread the word about depression and anxiety. And I want to tell folks, you can beat it. Is it a tough road to hoe? Yes, it is. I know so many people, especially men, that go through it. Why do you think society conditions people that go through it to say or to think, oh, you're not suffering from depression? And I actually had this next one said to me by my family. You don't have time to be depressed. That came right after my dad died.
Yeah, it's funny. We grow up in this society with so much love and all this stuff with our parents when we're first born, and then it conditions into trying to fit into society. And I think it really kind of stems, especially for guys, I think they just don't want to be heard as weak, or they don't want to get bullied for being vulnerable and sharing their emotions. And I think a lot of people are scared to be vulnerable because being vulnerable is a very hard thing to do, but it's actually a very brave thing to do. And I think that when people can come together and be vulnerable, it's like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be having this, like, you know, society like standard where it's like, oh, don't tell anyone your problems. Like, you can't tell anyone, like, it has to be secret. Like, we need to talk about it, because communication is one of the best ways of how I even live my life now. But having a good communication is everything.
You just said and hit everything on the head for me, because one of the things that my wife taught me after I came out of surgery was communication was everything. Do I still struggle? Yeah, I do. But I know I'm getting better at it. I mean, earlier today when I was walking into the kitchen to grab something, and I'm dealing with a foot issue, she just like threw this at me to like keep it in my mind. She says you have to make a more conscious effort to walk straight, because I was in a wheelchair for several months after losing a total amputation. Words mess with you. And some people don't intend for it to happen. And the majority of people who actually use words against you want to use it against you. But why do you think society is such where if you're dealing with depression and anxiety, you're told to bottle it up? Why do you think it's that way?
Social media. I really think it all kind of stems back to that. Because that was a huge thing for me when I really started like being like, oh my gosh, like I have to portray this perfect image online so no one actually knows how depressed and sad I am. And I think it really goes back to that, because social media can be a great thing, but it can also be a very detrimental thing to your mental health. And for me, it was very detrimental. I think that with people wanting to have this perfect image, they don't want people to know that they're actually going through hard things, when in the reality is we all go through hard things in life. It's just some people are more open about it than others. But I truly do think that, social media is a huge part of it. And I also think now at this point, because kids are so mean to each other because of the bullying, I think the bullying's gotten so out of hand that it's really kind of been something that, at least for me, when I was bullied, it's like, oh, you want to keep it to yourself. But when it actually happens, it's really important to talk about it.
When you get bullied, sometimes when you want to say something to somebody, a threat is usually accompanied with it, saying, don't say anything to anybody or it'll get worse. Finally, I just got to the point where I said, I'll risk it. And for the folks who deal with depression and anxiety, you have to risk it. You have to be vulnerable. Like you said, you got to speak out about it, and you have to speak out against it, which is the most toughest thing to do, is to be vulnerable, like you said a moment ago.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to really kind of be like, hey, this is me. I'm laying it on the table, because that's kind of how I am at this point. I'm like, listen, like I've been through this. What do you want to know? Like, because I feel when you keep things to yourself, you're not helping anyone. But if you actually speak your voice, you might actually save someone.
I believe that. One of the toughest things I've ever, besides the loss of my dad to prostate cancer, one of the toughest things that I'm still processing to this day was losing my daughter, Donna. And she would have been 11 this year. And there are times, and I'm just thankful for my wife being there. There are times where I just start bawling at the drop of a hat, thinking of her and seeing all the kids around me. And just, I had to express a thought out loud that I didn't want to, because I didn't know what people around me would think, what would think of me. And I didn't know what Jody would think of me. When I said aloud, I feel like I've been robbed of being a parent. All she did was put her arms around me and say, you're not the only one, but I do get it. When someone says that phrase to you, or that sentence to you, I get it. When they say that, even though they may not have been through the exact thing that you've been through, it knocks down a wall.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, it's something you said with that too. It's like, and you are literally saying it with that, but validating your feelings. She was validating how you felt and was there for you in a way of like, listen, I might be in a different brain than you, but I am here for you. And I want you to know that, whatever we're going through, we can go through this together, and we're going to get through it. And your feelings and emotions are valid. Do we need to go get a therapist? Do we need to go do something like go on a vacation, just the two of us? Like, it's really kind of just comes back to that of just really, talking about it too, and just, understanding that our feelings are valid. And so if anyone ever tells you that your feelings are not valid, then those are the wrong people to be hanging out with, number one, and two, they're wrong. Your feelings are always valid.
It's very true. It's very true. Like I mentioned earlier, losing my dad in 2007 to prostate cancer. And I consider my dad my hero. And since he's been gone, I've missed him terribly. And I literally had family members say to me, "You don't have time to be depressed." I knew I was feeling something in January of '08 when something overwhelming just took over me. It would happen whenever I'd watch a basketball game, or I would be commentating, or I'd be announcing a basketball game. I felt empty. I really felt empty because Pops wasn't there. And I tried to express it to my mom, and I tried to express it to my sister, and they both said the same thing. In a heartbeat, they said, "You don't have time to be depressed." I put the phone down and I walked away because I knew I was on the verge of exploding when that was said to me.
Yeah, I think you're saying it too with family and stuff. Family really should be validating. So I'm really sorry that you had to deal with that. I mean, I've had the complete opposite. My parents, my mom and dad, most loving, amazing people. My sister is still one of my best friends now. I mean, growing up, we like fought all the time, but like now we're best friends. And really, whenever I am going through something, I'll talk to her. And sometimes she has to like push it out of me a little bit, but she knows that I'm always going to like talk to her and all this stuff. And she's always going to say to me too, she's going to be like, listen, like, it's okay. Like, take your time. Like, your feelings are valid. You're processing this. You're going through something. Like, even when I have some bad experience happen, she's so validating in the way that she handles it. And like, she doesn't really know that, but it's like really amazing how she does, because she doesn't judge me either. She's just there to listen. And I think that is the thing, is like having people there to listen, who aren't going to judge you, who love you for who you are and love you for you. I mean, I have the best friends in the world now, and I am so grateful, and people who I really know are going to always lift me up. And I feel very blessed to have that, because I have not had that for a lot of my life. But I also, am very thankful for my family, and more than ever after 2020. But I definitely, my family, my sister, like, I couldn't say enough good things. And I'll spare you the soapbox.
It's the way you feel about your sister and your family, I feel about my family, my wife, my children, my grandchildren, because they didn't have to accept me with everything that was going on with me. They could have turned and walked away too, but one of the first things Jody did was put her arms around me, and she said, "I may not understand it all, but I'll listen."
Yep.
That right there broke a wall for me. Just, and sometimes when she asks me what's wrong, I'm so afraid and so scared to say it out loud, but just to have her there when I do say it out loud means the world to me. And you said it best in two words: that support system. And it's a tough one to build when you are dealing with depression and anxiety by yourself. It's so tough to build that support system, and it's so tough to trust people around you because you don't know if they're going to turn on you in a heartbeat or not.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think that's something scary too about sometimes being vulnerable and stuff, and why I feel like I have been hurt in the past too, is like, because I will open up and I will explain what's going on, and I'll tell you how it is and all this stuff. And then if you choose to walk away, then that's your choice. If you want to be in my life, you have to tell me that you care about me and that my feelings are going to be valid to you no matter what. Otherwise, See ya.
Exactly. I had to get back to that point of saying, this is who I am. If you can't accept me for me, I'm out of here. I
Yep.
had to get, at age 52, I had to get back to that point because I was there once upon a time. And then life happened, including the birth of my daughter, including the passing of my dad, and so many other things, including people telling me you're not going to make it as a broadcaster, which really let me down because the folks who grew up with me know how much I want that so badly. And the ones that are still there, I love them dearly. And they tell me all the time, you can call me if you need anything. And they're true with those words. The people that are true with those words, especially given how social media is in the 21st century, to have someone truly say to you, I'm here for you whenever you need me, that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's another thing. You hit a really good point with that too. It's like, not only are you going to say you're going to be there, but when you find people who literally will answer the call and be there for you in a second, that's really hard to find too, because a lot of people will talk the talk, but not actually walk the walk. And
Right.
It's weird for me now that I literally could call any one of my best friends and be like, listen, I need you right now, like whatever. And they'd be right there, because there was a point in my life where like I truly felt like I had no one. And I felt like, all the girls were mean to me and like I didn't have friends. And it's just like, it's just wild to me now that I have that support and love from them, because they always cheer me on and I'm their biggest cheerleader as well.
It's so comforting to have the people in your life to be your biggest cheerleader, and they allow you to be their biggest cheerleader. When that's reciprocated, that means so much. It just makes that smile radiate even more. And when you see them and see their smiles light up a room, and knowing that they're there for you and with you, that is immeasurable, especially given, as you mentioned earlier, how social media is and how society is, especially in the 21st century. When you have those people there, those chosen few, and there's really meaning to that are there for you and with you, it's everything.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have said that better myself. I mean, I really think you're lucky when you can find some people, but I also think that sometimes people are like, well, I don't have anyone, or who do I go to, or I don't have a support system. It's like, okay, well, let's take a step back. First, let's try a counselor. Let's try a therapist. Are you in, middle school, high school, guidance counselor? Start there, or it's really just about finding someone to trust, to open up to, because it feels like a weight's lifted off your shoulders when you actually tell the people you care about and love, like, this is why I feel this way. And to have them be like, I get it. Like, you're not like crazy for thinking that or anything like that. Or if I like have a just like down, depressed day, like, or not even depressed, because yes, I do have depression, but I know how to handle it now. And I just, not really sure where I was going with that, but
It's all right. It's all right.
but I know, I definitely think that just having those people and finding a therapist or whatever, I just think the biggest thing is talking. I think that's like the number one thing I always say. It's like, just find someone to talk to. Start there, because then from there you can figure out, okay, who's going to be able to clinically help me, who's going to be able to be by my side. And having those different people can really help and change your life. I mean, that's what happened for me, for sure.
One of the things that I lean on a lot, that a quality of my wife that I absolutely adore, is her sense of humor, because she knows when I'm feeling down, and she'll just find something just out of the blue that will just have me cracking up laughing. She'll say something, and the next thing I know, all the tears will dry up and I'm on the floor dying, because she said it was in that moment where I needed her to be silly. And, she even wrote in the card, I love that someone gets my silliness. I said, honey, I get the fact that you're silly at all, period. Okay. But to have you be silly to me as I am to you, that is something else, because she always knows what to say and how to say it, just to get me out of a funk, and I start laughing.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that you have people that make you feel that way. I mean, honestly, same. Like I have people too, where I'll just like, even my sister, I'll just be like, okay, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Like, let's go do something else, you know. But we do live in different cities now. So unfortunately, the time we do have together is very precious now. But you know, she's a character and she's so funny. And like she always cracks me up. And like same with my friends. Like we have very dry humor. And it's just so funny that like we all get each other and we all think like maybe someone thinks it's dumb and we're like, that's so funny.
In honor of my wife, she, with some of the things that she says to me, and she'll go, I'm glad you think I'm hilarious. Baby, you are hilarious.
Yeah.
At least to me. I tell her this all the time. You find that thing to say to me that just gets me to crack up laughing. And she says, well, other people don't think I'm funny. To hell with them. I do. You're a nut. And I love it.
Hey, they can't be beautiful and not crazy. So I'm sure that it's just a thing. I'm sure she's beautiful. And I'm sure, you know, not just like herself, but her heart. And it's amazing that you have like that marriage foundation and stuff. Cause I mean, I'm not anywhere close to that, but it's nice to see that, you know, it's like, it only matters what that one person thinks or that one person says, because I think we put such a pressure on the opinions of outside people that we sometimes forget what we really want for ourselves. You know, I literally have had some friends who are like, I think about moving, but all this stuff. And I said, think about it, just tunnel vision. What do you want? Because I think that when you're like, oh, this is what they want for me and this whatever, but it's like, no, what do I want for myself? And I think that when you can actually find that and live that, it feels so good to know what you want to do for yourself. And I feel lucky that I have gotten to that point, because for so many years, you know, it was like, it was just going through the motions, trying not to, you know, have another episode and you know, break down or, you know, just all that stuff that, you know, when you're in a dark place.
Absolutely. There's a jacket on your YouTube page which has the word unbreakable on it. And I absolutely love that picture. Was that your original design? How'd you come up with it?
So that actually, it's kind of funny because one of my like best friends who I haven't seen for like a year because she's been like traveling and stuff, but she and her boyfriend are very artsy and he is an artist. So I said to him, I was like, hey, why don't you come up with like 4 designs? Because I had like 4 friends or 3 other with me in it. Never been good at math too. So just putting that out there. But I, you know, just having those friends to be able like to see the beauty of what it came to be was just so cool, because I started with that and then I was like, wait a second, what if we did these, but then we also figure out something for the book? Because, you know, my book cover is completely different from the YouTube. Yeah.
That's when my friend Charles came up with an idea of me writing a book, and it's like, okay, how am I gonna write a book? He says, use what you know, use your microphone. And then he came up with the title, which was this, Diary of a Mad Snowman, with everything that I've been through just in the last 3 years alone. And I've done part of it. I have voiced part of it. Part 1 is done. Part 2 is in motion. And I got a friend back home, one of my best friends at home in Chicago, that's going to transcribe it and put it in book form. And it's the only way I know how to attack a project. Dive right in and go all the way in. If I don't feel it after that, then so be it. But it's one of the things that people can learn that go through it. When you are dealing with depression and anxiety and something is like blocking you from where you want to be, put a helmet on and attack it head on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, taking care of it and not just letting it fester, because the problem is there's so many people who do struggle in silence and who are scared to just like have anyone know anything about them. Like you just like get to this point where you're so comfortable being depressed. I mean, I know I was at this point where I just felt like there was this dark cloud over my head every single day and felt like it was never going to get better, but also was so comfortable being depressed, if that makes sense. So it really kind of took me being like, okay, we gotta like snap. And honestly, my sister pretty much was the person who kind of was like, all right, what life do you really want for yourself? And it like, do you really want to keep, going down this like rabbit hole? And, really helped me put things in perspective and made me realize that I wanted to change. Because the thing about depression and having anxiety is like, you have to be the one that's like, I need to do this for myself. I'm going to go to IOP for myself, intensive outpatient therapy. And so it's something that you have to say, I have to do this. It's not something anyone else can say to you.
She is unbreakable, and she is Carolyn Skowron. She joins me here on the Brian Snow Show this afternoon. Thank you so, so very much. And I hope our conversation sheds a light to any and everyone that's going through depression and anxiety. Thank you so, so much. I'd love to have you back.
Of course. I will be happy to be back anytime.
Thank you very much. We'll be back, folks.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.